Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. Yes, it's the Monday night chat, even though it's quite bright. It could be like early afternoon here in the UK. And yeah, we've got like one member missing. We're waiting for the original Godfather himself to enter the building. But I've got two familiar faces, one of which is a relative of mine, and the other one could be a brother of mine. Anyway, guys, listen, we'll get into the details on the other side of this music intro. Yes, welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for us fans all over this world. Yes, it's a Monday night, a Monday afternoon chats, and I've got James Rowe all about there in Amsterdam. Of course, I've got my brother just around the corner in Wales. James, how are you, my friend?
Very well, thank you. Nice to see you both again, and thank you for having me on. And I hope you're both keeping well, and nice to see you again, Ralph.
Yes, James, thanks very much. It's nice to see you too. I know that we chat pretty much on Twitter now and again, but when I see you on the channel, your insight just expands my knowledge of the game and the holistic way that we look at the club as well. So I appreciate you being here, mate. So I appreciate everything that you do.
Yeah. So we've got a lot to unravel on this one. Again, we're waiting for the original Godfather himself to enter the building. He might make us an offer we can't refuse. But yes, Saturday was I don't know what Saturday it was, to be honest. 3-0 to Liverpool, and I kind of watched like the match kind of being played out in this theatre of disaster. And the one thing that came to mind was I kind of gave a little story about Ralph might or might not remember when I bought my first new car. It was a Fiat Uno. And we were going to a club up, Luton. And we got on the motorway, and I was thinking, right, I've got a new car. My brother was in it. I think Ralph, were you with me? Can you remember that time? I can't remember.
I remember it because we were both in the car. It was my mate George and Glenn. George had a Peugeot 205 that came at the time.
The GTI. Yeah. So we arrived at the traffic lights, and I'm thinking, my car's new. Yeah, over the next maybe 100 yards, my car can overtake this. So boom, I think it takes off, and then and in my right, so I can see my brother's mate's just overtaken me, and that's what happened with the game on Saturday. For the first 5 minutes, both teams were still trying to figure themselves out, but Liverpool just overran us. Literally did everything, and we were still stuck in first gear. But James, talk to me about your thoughts about the game, Liverpool versus Arsenal.
Well, first and foremost, I thought it was a disappointment. I couldn't believe on the before the game that Arsenal fans were tweeting out, "We're going to win 1-0. We're going to win. We've got to win. If we win tonight, we're only 4 points behind such and such a team." They're completely missing the point. We're not ready for Champions League on or off the pitch. We're not ready for Europe, even though we're still in it. But I just think that the hope of certain fans, I think they're hoping to be like a driving force on the pitch. But I suppose some of those players don't care for the fans, don't care for the badge, and seem to think that they can plan a career. But Leno, he's signed for Bayer Leverkusen. Is made out to be an amazing goalkeeper by Arsenal fans. He's not that good. We sold the wrong goalkeeper. I think as a team, we're just a collection of individuals. You only have to look at the program. It's like a United Nation of an Arsenal squad. I'm aware that society changes and football changes, but there's no core. There's no core among that squad. There's the backroom staff. I mean, the Dutch TV here in the Netherlands kept showing Albert Stauffenberg, who managed in Belgium, had spells with Feyenoord as well. I wonder what he's telling Mikel Arteta. I interviewed an assistant manager not so long ago who I quote what he told me. When you're an assistant manager, it's a very tough job. It's not simply that you're added to the backroom staff. And he said that if you don't voice your opinion, you're not doing your job properly, and you're not helping your manager by giving him different ideas and giving him the ability to think about a different way of playing, a different tactic. And I wonder, with the likes of Stalvenberg and Steve Round, what exactly are they telling Arteta? Because he's inexperienced. I'm not going to make this about Arteta. I'm just saying about the managerial and the backroom staff as a collective. And they're all relatively inexperienced in terms of the position they're holding. But if in terms of that being translated to the pitch, I see Mikel Arteta micromanaging almost every single pass. But these are experienced footballers we've got on the pitch. Do they need to be micromanaged? And I think because he knows that he can't get a tune out of them. I think he's got to be seen to be trying to get a tune out of them. And when you look at the characteristics of Aubameyang, I think he scored 9 Premier League goals this season. I think I saw a tweet that since his contract extension, each goal has cost in excess of £604,000. But he's lauded as if he's an Ian Wright, as if he's a Dennis Bergkamp. He's lauded and put up on a pedestal with these strikers. But Bergkamp and Thierry Henry and Ian Wright, they were all important to Arsenal as individuals, but also part of a collective that won trophies. He was subbed off after 75 minutes. Arsenal fans bending over backwards, pleading and begging for him to sign the thing. But as if he's the only striker that will ever score goals for Arsenal. And Arsenal have literally been duped. If you have been sent away by AC Milan in your younger days due to disciplinary reasons, and the fact that AC Milan don't quite see it in you, and then he goes to St Etienne and then he goes to Dortmund, and by his words when he signed for Arsenal, pleased to be your last signing, boss, referring to Arsene Wenger, not referring to the badge. Arsenal have got to come out of this malaise of people identifying players on their social media clout, their reputation and their price tag. We have got to come away as a club and we've got to start identifying footballing characteristics. And that includes the fans. I was told today on Twitter that Reece Nelson is better than Mark Albrighton. Mark Albrighton is the Premier League winner. Mark Albrighton was as important to Leicester in that Premier League winning season as Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez. But because Mark Albrighton is not a name, nobody's interested. Reece Nelson's career hasn't really even begun and it's literally stalled because he hardly plays and time passes by so quickly. And I touched on kind of for the last season that this season would be like last and next season will be like this season. And until a new owner comes in intent on putting the welfare of Arsenal Football Club first, not LA Rams, not his investments, until Arsenal have a footballing custodian come in and has the bottle to make unpopular decisions, we're not going to make any significant progress, unfortunately.
Ralph, your thoughts about the game on Saturday?
Okay, well, my thoughts. We've been here before, guys.
Exactly.
We've been here before. I think we've all run out of superlatives about how poor this team is. And what I saw on Saturday, it looked like as if the Liverpool first team was training against the under 23s or something. There was no desire. There was no fun. The passes were short. Mistakes easy to spot. Players hiding. I could go on and on. In fact, ever since this channel's been on, all we have to do actually is just go back to every time when Arsenal's lost, and you would see the red flags, as it were, of the reasons why we lost to a Liverpool, why we lost to Crystal Palace, why we lost to Aston Villa, why we lost to Burnley. You will see it all there. some of the highlights of what we did last season in the cup run papered over the cracks. That's what he did, just papered over the cracks. And we as fans, Arsenal fans, we know where the cracks are. We know where the bodies are. We know who turns up. We know what we want for this club. And it just seems to fall on deaf ears. James Rowe pulled out a really good scenario. He said that how the thing about Arsenal is the fact that we don't learn our lesson and we keep repeating the same mistake. That's what we do. We repeat the same mistakes. It's not the fact that we came across a Liverpool team who has been absolutely outstanding this season. This is the worst season for a champion holding title team. And they came to the Emirates on the back of hoping that they could win. And the second half, from what I saw, actually I missed the first half. I was kind of like relieved, thinking, well, we must be doing something right. It's really 0-0 at this moment in time. And as soon as Jota came on the pitch, I knew that we were going to score. Anyone who saw that from the second half capitulation, even the last minute of the second half, they were about to score a fourth goal. And that's when Leno decides to wake up. From the root to the fruit, the whole thing is rotten. And I'm looking at here, I've written down some notes about, where do we go next? What do we need to fix? We know what we need to fix first. We need someone, the owner, to care about the club. And at the bottom end, we need players who play for this. Play for the shirt, not play for a new contract, not play for the fact that they want a Lamborghini or they want that house in Madrid or wherever it is. Not wanting to play for us because they got a side issue to play for Real Madrid or Barcelona or someone else. Someone to play for the club. Bottom line, play for the shirt. You've been in the club, especially the experienced players, you've been in the club 5-10 years, and you turn out that kind of performance. That's disgusting. It's disgusting. And as fans, we go back to work or we do blogs like this, and we're scratching our heads and we're thinking, well, hang on now, this player, that player, a few of the players who would have been responsible didn't play. This was the perfect opportunity for those players who turned up on Saturday to cement their places. And as far as I'm concerned, they've pretty much written their death warrants.
Yeah.
But before I go to Terry, I'll play devil's advocate here. Is it not too easy to point the finger at the owner of the club? Again, before we went live, we were talking about the players. The players have to turn up. They have to take responsibility. Now, we spoke about the 55 members of staff who got laid off last year. The scouting network and trying to highlight and pinpoint players with the right attitude and the right mentality. But that's far removed from the owner. The players surely have to turn up, James. They have to turn up. It's not like got a regular job and they don't turn up. You don't get paid or you get sacked. They have to turn up, game in and game out, irrespective of who the owner is. James, they've got to turn up.
Well, I think if you look at it, it starts at the top, where we have an owner who just sees Arsenal Football Club as a healthy investment. That's it. His priority is LA Rams, not Arsenal Football Club. So he sees Arsenal as just a healthy investment, and he's happy to keep that investment. Those players that we sign, again, earning loads of money, but again, they just see Arsenal as an investment. There's no sporting desire to actually win with Arsenal. Our fans seem to go absolutely bananas over signing certain players. Oh, he's brilliant on FIFA. Oh, I've seen him on YouTube. He's amazing. But YouTube makes any player look good. Anybody. From whatever level, whatever country, YouTube makes any player look good. And we as a club, we need to come away from this, where the price tag dictates. We've wasted an untold amount of money. And this is not monopoly money. This is real money. You touched on the employees that was laid off. One of them was a scout who was made redundant, having just signed a contract extension. So the people compiling their lists of, we should sign this player in the summer, we should sign that player in the summer, are they aware that those players, those employees that were made redundant had also signed contract extensions? That they would also receive severance pay or receive monetary payment in certain respects, because that's what happens in business. But no, they seem to think that Arsenal have a bottomless pit. It's highly unlikely we'll play in Europe next season. So these wages that we are paying long term, they are not sustainable. But you know what the sad thing is? People like Aubameyang, Lacazette, they will leave the club, but they will leave the club having been eulogised. They've got away with it. They haven't had to perform at Arsenal, and they can leave by saying, "Oh, I had to leave. I'm sorry, I had to leave due to the financial situation at the club." And fans will side with the player above the welfare of the club. And that's something which is quite scary for me. You can advocate and you can see that it's already happened with Ozil. Ozil was paid €8 million to leave Arsenal Football Club. And to think we used to haggle over €100,000 for Didier Drogba when he was at Le Mans. So we've gone from haggling with Le Mans for €100,000 for Didier Drogba to paying off one player €8 million. It's fair to say as a club, we're not being run properly. And until that owner and custodian, whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, doesn't matter who it is, but they've got to have the welfare of Arsenal Football Club at heart. And until that day comes, we will not make any progression mid to long term, unfortunately.
Afternoon, Hotel. Welcome to the live show. Your thoughts on the game, Arsenal versus Liverpool. Wonderful display. Wonderful.
Well, I'll try and lift people's spirits, and I'm sorry I'm a little bit late on. I was talking to a violin tutor that you probably can recollect, Alex, and we started enjoying us by talking about something wonderful called music. And then I come back here and talk to you guys, and we have a disaster zone in front of us now. We've got barely 11 quality players, and we've got a whole load of fringe players who just aren't good enough for Arsenal, and we're all running around making excuses for them. But you look at them. Chambers isn't good enough. He looks good because of Bellerin. We've got Cedric, who Southampton FC level. No disrespect to them. But although I think he's better than the other two right backs, I don't think he's still Arsenal level. And one of the saddest things, I don't know if people saw this, about midway through the second half when it was all going wrong against Liverpool, Arteta was blinking a lot. And I've seen people do that when the tears are beginning to prick behind their eyes. And he will have been singing players that he's made excuses for, and he's good like all managers or most managers. He's not going to blame the players, but they let him down big time, and you could see that in his face. He felt massively let down by a group of generally average players, people that are overpaid, people that are not performing. And I was thinking to myself, everybody watching this, if you're in employment, you will know there's a thing called performance-related pay. And you will know that you've got to achieve a standard, and a top standard, just to hold down a regular job. And we've got players there who don't see it like that, who are not interested like that. And I'm afraid I'm going to point the finger now at Aubameyang. I don't think he's interested. He's already a very, very rich man. His head is full of, let's get the petrol into the Lamborghini. Let me have what last wisps of hair he's got designed in a designer fashion. That seems to be his main focus. We've got probably 5 or 6 players that deserve to play for Arsenal, and the rest have to go. And that means that we're going to really struggle, because even if we do some wonders in the transfer market, and I suspect we might get Mark Overmars in, hopefully, you never know, coming in as a European advisor, maybe to work alongside Edu. Even with that, it's going to take a big rebuild, and we may well end up with a good 9, 10, or 11 players, but we won't have the depth of squad to make a lot of difference, because once the sort of games mount up and injuries start, then we are in serious trouble. 2 weeks ago, we had almost no injuries. Now the injuries, we've lost Luiz, who regardless of his errors, is probably one of our best centre backs. We've lost him. We've probably lost Tierney because we've overplayed him. I mean, he played 3 Scottish games plus all the games, and we've overplayed him. Now, luckily, we haven't overplayed, or we were about to overplay Saka, and we've given him a break. But do you know what? We haven't got a team that is worthy of anything other than the sort of roughly the middle of the Premier League table. And it isn't good enough. And I'm afraid I felt really sorry for him, because I thought to myself, we've got a manager who will be a great manager one day. I have absolutely no doubts. He's having a lot of trouble with, he could do with an older hand alongside him, to be honest, to maybe play good cop, bad cop, and get into the heads of some of these very mature guys who've been around and aren't doing it for him. And of course, Freddie said that. Freddie's final comment after 4 matches, people might recollect. Freddie said, "You've got a bunch of players there who aren't interested." And Freddie called it out. And I'm afraid Arteta is doing his best. He's not telling you and I or anybody else what he really feels, but I could see it in his eyes. He's thinking, if you're going to play Liverpool, you're going to have to run for 95, 96 minutes. The midfield has nothing going in it. There's no runners. There's no passing patterns. We run up either side, left and right, but the midfield, Liverpool were just walking and running through us all the time. And as Raz said, as soon as Jota came on, you knew that it was all over. You know, and we'd done well up to then just to hold them, but that's not good enough. This is Arsenal Football Club, and I'm afraid we've got a centre forward who's not interested, and I would sell him. He's marketable. Get him out. Get him out.
But even without Mark Overmars, would you trust Edu, Binay, and Arteta if they were given a war chest upwards to £300 million? Would you trust them to scout and buy the right kind of players to bring us to where we should be?
No, I wouldn't, because whoever scouted, what's his name? I knew I'd think of a player, think of his name. Pepe.
Yeah, Pepe.
Whoever scouted him hasn't watched what he does off the ball. Off the ball, he can't tackle. He just can't do it. The body shape is wrong. He doesn't know where he is. If you watched him against Liverpool, he's pointing at players. You take him, you take him. He can't do it. And yes, I've looked at, as was it Raz saying or James, you can put up a montage of players on YouTube and they'll look absolutely wonderful. But you've got to go and see what they're doing when they aren't doing all their wonderful stuff. He cannot tackle back. He can't work in Arteta's system. So what we've got is Arteta saying he's got a system, he's got a plan, he's got a process. And he has. Absolutely, I'm sure he has. The problem is he hasn't got the players that will fit that process. He's laid the law down. He's got rid of some characters who caused him problems, like, well, Guendouzi would cause anybody a problem. He's already laid the law down with Oba, probably several times before he did it in public. And he's just going to have to sell him. But I think I don't trust them, because if they can start buying some of these players that we're seeing performing, the EPL is quite different. It's not a slow, quick, slow league. It's 100 mile an hour continually. And we've got to look at, well, we've said it many times, look at Leicester's recruitment. It's been phenomenal. They are pulling players that people haven't heard of, and these guys can run and they can tackle and they can thread a ball through. They've got patterns of play. They know what they're doing. We can't keep hoping to pull, something magical out of the transfer market. It's not going to happen. And I really do hope that he's still with us, that Arteta's still with us in a year's time. But for the first time against Liverpool, I thought, oh my God, I can see him thinking, this isn't working. I've backed these guys and they're letting me down. I mean, I was thinking, are we going to win that Europa League? Not a hope. Not a hope.
Yeah.
I hope to God I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. And I've got egg on my face in a few weeks' time. But, I'll be the first to cheer. But it's not going to happen. How is it going to happen with these guys? I saw us taking Paris Saint-Germain on in their pomp with David Ginola and all of that. And right, getting sent off towards the end of the first half. And George Graham was saying, don't worry about that, Ian. Just let the team get out. Oh, yeah, but I'm not in the final. He said, we're not even in the final yet. We've got to win the semi-final. Stop crying. Stop being a baby. Let's get this team on the pitch. Where's that never say die attitude? It's not there. And just a very quick one that people might be interested. I was watching Jack Charlton, who was the manager of Ireland in some of Ireland's best days. And he was saying that Paul McGrath, who people might think back, he played for Villa and the Republic of Ireland. He said the one thing Paul didn't have was he didn't instruct his two pivots, his defensive midfielders, where to go. And then I was thinking back and I was thinking, that's the one thing that our great defence did, that Tony Adams and Keown and Baldy, they were always talking to each other, talking to Petit, talking to Vieira, cover him, watch him. And you never saw our defenders run at. They always are able to push up high. This team, they don't talk to each other. I think Gabriel will be a good defender. He's obviously learning English, so I'm not casting any aspersions on him. And I think David Luiz is a talker. Not that we might see him again this season. I don't know. I hope so. But there's not a lot of talkers out there. I don't see people fist pumping and saying, come on, guys, you've got to go down. You can do this. When's the last time you saw that? And they go and make Oba captain. He didn't even know how to lift up the FA Cup. It was in 2 bits. I didn't finish with it. Get a captain in. Tim Hogan, who might be watching, I'm not sure, but Tim Hogan made a very good point, actually. He said a captain is always ideal if they're in the middle of the park somewhere, because they can be in the referee's ear. They can be just saying, come on, ref, that's stupid, and you aren't going to get booked for it, but just be around the ref, talking to them, just making your presence felt. We don't have any of this talk going on. Talk to each other, tell each other where to go, fist pump each other, clap your hands. Come on, boys, you can do this. When does that happen? Haven't seen it for a long.
But Tel, the thing is, if you've got your manager shouting from the sidelines where you should go, then you don't need anyone else, your teammates, to tell you where you need to go. There's no fans in the stadium. You can clearly hear, like Jim's saying, you can hear Mikel Arteta is micromanaging the players.
Yeah, you see, I asked somebody that. Who did I ask that recently? And because I said, to me, if I was playing and somebody was micromanaging me, it would really annoy me. And I don't mind my other defenders, players around me telling me where to go. But if I'm trying to absorb all of that, and then the next minute there's a guy telling me in my home language to go here and go there, well, my head is split. A fair play to him. There was a word he was using, Czechie or something. I've no idea whether that's Portuguese. I think he was saying it to Gabriel. It could be Spanish. I think it means get close or get near to him. But I think he is he's trying his best, and he can see where it's going wrong. But at the end of the day, you can't micromanage these players, because actually, if you micromanage in teaching, and you'll know this, if you micromanage, you take away the child's initiative and self-confidence. and self-esteem. If it's constantly telling me, watch it and go there, you can't work like that on the football pitch. And I don't want to criticise him, and I can understand why he's doing that. But whenever my sons used to go and play the school team, I never shouted anything. I could hear all the other dads shouting, but I thought, allow him to play his game. Yeah.
James, did you want to say something, James?
Well, Terry makes some great points. I wanted to touch on two things. That Paris Saint-Germain also had Paul again in that midfield. That was a very good Paris Saint-Germain team, and that famous win against Paris Saint-Germain in the mid-90s. Terry touches on Leicester. I'm certain that if Arsenal signed Timothy Castagne, Sonjiku, Dennis Praet, Daniel Amati, the Arsenal fans would have a fit. But Daniel Amati has a history with Copenhagen. Dennis Praet played for Anderlecht and played for Sampdoria. Timothy Castagne was at Genk. Sonjiku, of course, I believe was at Freiburg in Germany. Arsenal fans don't look at the previous. It's all about the clout. It's also all about the social media followers, or, he's oh so amazing because he FaceTimes with a YouTube influencer of Arsenal, who then goes on to spout 9 times out of 10 rubbish about their own opinion, which a very impressionable young fan base seems to take literally. And Terry makes the point about talking. Who says they talk in English? They don't. I raised this comment a couple of seasons ago. I raised this comment a couple of seasons ago at games, and I was told I was an idiot. When I myself and someone that speaks foreign languages, it's a world game first and foremost, and you only needed to see the unveiling of Gabriel, where you've got Gabriel, William, and Luis all speaking in Portuguese. Subtitles at the bottom of the screen. They've got it made. They're all laughing and joking. Why? Because no other football club of world standing would be done up like a kipper like that. You don't see Bayern Munich acting like that. You don't see Juventus acting like that. You don't see Real Madrid acting like that. Why? Because these are not only football clubs, they're institutions. We used to be one of them. We used to be an institution full of first-rate class, even down to the fan knowledge. And we are slowly slipping away from the once amazing values we had. Of course, you're not going to win every game, but we have now gone as a fan base to rubbishing the Europa League as if it was, don't want to be in that. It's not the Champions League. We're not interested, to literally begging Arsenal to win the Europa League to stay in Europe. We're not going to win the Europa League. I doubt we'll get past Slavia Prague. But the narrative for Unai Emery has already been written. So we're in big trouble, and we've got a lot of soul searching to do in the summer, and that starts in the boardroom. And I go back to my point: when you've got an owner, we're not his priority. So it seeps down to pitch level. The players being at Arsenal's not my priority. David Luiz and Willian, they'll be off to Benfica soon. They've already got it mapped out. But yet Arsenal haven't got the substance and the fight to say, well, hang on a minute, if you're thinking like that, we're not even going to sign you. And I'm convinced that Unai Emery only signed David Luiz for an extra body. I don't think he signed David Luiz for the player. I believe that Unai Emery signed David Luiz as an extra body in terms of the squad.
Ralph, thank you for waiting. I think you wanted to say something actually before that, didn't you? Do you want to chip in? Actually, I've got a question for you, Alfred, really, before you go on. Now we've only got like 8 games now until the end of the season. We're not going to, for the longest time, I could see the writing on the wall that we're not going to make top 4. Going forward now, would you change the first 11? Would you now bring in some of the players that we've been crying out for in the under 23s, like your Miguel, Azizes, your Cottrells, and your Ballingans? Would you like to see those players come in now, or no?
Sorry, is that for me?
Yes, for you, Ralph. Yeah.
There's nothing else for us to really play for. Really, let's give the youngsters a chance. Since we hit our level 10th place, that's to me the opportune moment to say, right, okay, I've got my 11. These are the maybes, and the maybes is going to be in the same tin or the same barrel as who's going to go out. So guess what? Over 23s, under 23s, you have got a chance now to start making a claim for the spot. And I would bet you a dime to a dollar that every player that's in the academy would turn up, and that's what you want. You want them to put the professionals' noses out of joint. If they're good enough and they hold the spot, then why not? And the other point of it as well is the fact that you're building on your resources. If we've got an academy to feed from, then you use the academy players. The professional players should be pulling us out of the mire, and they're not doing it. Okay, bring in a few youngsters, put the professionals' noses out of joint, and one or two things will happen. One, the young player will start thinking, you know what, actually, all I've got to do is just prove to my manager that I'm good enough. And the professionals will have to either show up or do what they're doing at this moment in time. And they've done what they've been doing for the longest time now. So, yeah, get the youngsters in. We've got nothing more to play for. How far, we're already breaking records, losing 12 matches in this season. Why not make it 13, 14, 15? Let's get the youngsters in now. Get them blooded. Get them into the matches where the most we can expect of them is to perform. And at the same time, for professional players, if they feel that their nose is out of joint, you've had all this time to prove. You've had all this season and last season to prove your point, and you've been consistently inconsistent. So we'll talk about your contract during the summer. And then you've got your 11 for this Europa. I'm optimistic. That's just the kind of guy I am. I want to be positive. But for us to turn up on the first and second leg, that performance from Saturday just cannot exist. But we know it's Arsenal. Someone on the line, it will pop up again.
Yeah. I mean, so were you knowing, David Rocastle 20 years, which has gone past so very quick? Surely the players should have recognised the significance, or does that show the disconnect between the history of Arsenal and these concept players that somehow we signed at Arsenal? The disconnect between that significance. That if you what more motivation do the players need? If they need to, go on, tell.
I think there is a massive disconnect between the players. I mean, I used to live 7 minutes walk from Arsenal. When I was a school kid, we used to see them go to Barclays Bank on a Friday to put in their Arsenal checks. We'd say hello, we'd say, come on, win at the weekend, and so on. You'd bump into them, from time to time. Or if I went up to, I remember once, remember Stefan Schwartz that we had with us for a season? And I remember he was being by Arsenal. Yeah. It must have been pre-season or something. And he walked past me, dressed in all the Arsenal gear, and he had the biggest calves I've ever seen a player. Absolutely enormous. And you say hello, Stefan, and he'd say hello back, and you say, I hope we win the first game, and so on. And there was a connect all the time. Now, of course, the players don't wander around the stadium. They don't. They're bussed in. They go into the bottom of the stadium and up in the lift, and there is no connect. And of course, the fans. We were all hit terribly hard by losing Rocky. First of all, losing him as a player when George Graham. And he was a massive hero of the fans, and a wonderful player. And then, of course, he died. He got ill and died. And all the people who've been watching Arsenal from that period and before, have never forgotten Rocky. And I don't know. Why didn't they get a few people like us that knew how great a player Rocky was and how determined he was to sort of win? Why didn't you get us into one of the training sessions at London Colney and say, lads, before you go out, I want you to listen? They could have filmed us, and we could have done Arteta's team talk for him. He's one of us, and he gave everything. It wasn't about money in those days. It was about the desire you felt when somebody awarded you the red and white of Arsenal. That's why you played. And you know, I think his wife, or his daughter, is Monique, and she said, you know, it's a bit of a shame that Arsenal didn't win, but she appreciated the fans, you know, and their tribute. But you know, we all feel, you know, why don't you just why doesn't this team show the passion that people like Rocky did, and that we had an ideal opportunity, even when we went a goal down, to say, right, we'll do this for Rocky, but didn't happen.
Quite sad. Listen, I guess let's go into the live chat. Unless you guys do you want to say anything before we go into live chat? James, you want to say anything before we go into live chat? James?
Can I just say
to follow on from... Go on, Terry.
Oh, yeah. I was
After you.
just going to say, I've been following very carefully this business of how the Champions League is changing. And this is worth mentioning in terms of what James was talking about, which is the ownership of the club. And people like Kroenke always think long term. And at the moment, there's you can Google it and find it online. In 2 years' time, they're going to expand the number of teams from different countries that are going to be allowed into the new Champions League format. And they're also going to use the coefficient system. So if your team has done pretty well in Europe in the last few seasons, but you happen to have a blip and not done too well in your home league, then you still get into the Champions League format. Now, they're doing that because in the background is the Super League. And the Super League is the one that the current authorities are very worried about, because there is so much money to be had from getting teams like Arsenal and Liverpool and Man United and Man City playing Real Madrid, playing Atleti, playing Inter Milan, and you know, all the teams around Europe that are the top teams in their league. There is so much money, rather than seeing Burnley versus Arsenal. No disrespect to Burnley, but the money people do not want to have Arsenal playing Burnley. They want to see Arsenal playing all the top teams. So every match is a total sellout. People are spending fortunes. They can pump the fees up for Sky and so on. And that's what's coming. And that is what Stanley Kroenke is waiting for. He's playing the long game here. I don't think he'll sell. I would love him to sell, and I would love Dangote or somebody, or maybe a syndicate coming in, so that we can get ourselves back on form again with the team playing for the shirt. But Kroenke is different. He's not thinking that way. He said, he's saying, you don't buy an English league team in order to win trophies. He said that, okay? Quoted. It's a fact. He bought it to make money. And there is so much money to be made by having a league. This is the other thing, because they have this in the States. In the States, the soccer league has no relegation. You're in there, guaranteed. So in this Super League that they're planning, there is no relegation. They want Arsenal in there, of course they do, because the crowds will flock, to the stadium when the stadium is broken. But also, millions of people around the world will pay money to watch Arsenal against Bayern Munich and so on. And that is what's behind you, FIFA or UEFA, whoever's involved in it, trying to revamp this Champions League. It's not going to work because the Super League has too much money, and that's our future. Unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, because money talks. That's my lesson in life. I don't like it, but money talks, and Kroenke's in it for the money. Nothing to do with the red and white of Arsenal. I see Raz there, you know, got red and white on. We all love to see teams playing, you know, Arsenal in that kit. Kroenke's not interested. Not interested. He wants, what to call them, dollars in America, greenbacks. He wants the dosh. The money, the greenbacks. He's not interested in guys wearing an Arsenal kit picking up silverware. He didn't even turn up to the match, the last UEFA final, Europa League final, did he? So he's
James.
Well, I think Terry makes some great points, but Arsenal won't even see that Champions League, Terry. Arsenal won't even see it. So there'll be an expansion. There'll be an expansion without us, and I'm actually hoping for that, because maybe that will be the green light for Kroenke to say, "Well, I'm not included in this. I thought I would be, but I'm not." So maybe that's the green light for him to sell. These reforms will have ramifications for the whole of Europe, where even one of the caveats to the new Champions League is a team that's recently performed well in the Champions League would gain automatic entry. You're basing a coefficient on what's gone before. We all love football because it's unpredictable. If you have a Super League, it's another nail in the coffin of football starting to eat itself. I am a football fan of Arsenal. I interview professional players and managers on a regular basis. The last thing I want is the Super League, because you've got to think about the sporting element of European competition. Why do we have so much pride with what happened in '94? Because none of us expected it. And the pride upon which Arsenal took on the likes of Parma, took on the likes of Paris Saint-Germain, won in Liège 7-1 when English teams hardly won away from home, because we didn't experience it, we didn't expect it. And also for the normal football fan, they can't afford to go to Madrid one week, London the next, Paris the weekend after that. So is it another step to having no fans in stadiums? I think there's a long way to go. The same way English football writers took the Belgium amalgamation with the Netherlands and ran with it. Not one of them published any news from the Netherlands, because there wasn't any news from the Netherlands. But they all took the idea of Belgium and the Netherlands amalgamating, and that will be that. Two leagues are completely different, right up in terms of financial supervision. Here in the Netherlands, the Dutch FA, the KNVB, supervise their professional teams. And if they find out when they receive the yearly accounts of clubs who are then put into different categories, if they find out that a club has been spending beyond their means, sanctions are issued that can range from fines to points deduction to your professional license being revoked. But I didn't hear any football writers in England that took the story of the Netherlands and Belgium amalgamating talking about this. As someone based in one of the countries, this is inside knowledge that I know. And to touch on Rocky Rocastle, a fantastic tribute, but long overdue. I was in 2016 at home to Watford. The programme cover was the previous away game at Everton. The stadium announcer said, we're going to be doing something at half-time to commemorate Rocky Rocastle. They never did. 2017, on the home game of his anniversary, I think the day after it was, Alexis Sanchez was on the front cover. As great as the tribute is, if it didn't come with public pressure to actually do it, they wouldn't have done it. So well done to the fans, to the real fans that understood how important Rocky was to us and still is to us. Well done for them to put pressure on club to do it, because they haven't done it the previous years, they've done it now. And although it's a great tribute, long overdue, but something that maybe should happen every season, not just after 20 years, for example, because we still sing his name even now for all the reasons that Terry mentioned. That's what we do. And one final point I wanted to make, we're in dire straits, but a question to all three of you quickly now: how different would things be in terms of how we're feeling, the projection on the pitch and the projection in the media? How do you three think and feel it would be if it was normal times and fans were inside the stadium? Do you think a decision would have already been taken regarding Arteta's future? What do you think? If fans were allowed in, would things be any different this season?
James, it's funny you should ask that question, because I was going to ask you guys the same question. I think you would have been under immense pressure if the stadiums were full of supporters and fans, and know that you would have probably heard a lot of booing, he would have been under a lot of pressure. I'm not sure whether he would have actually lasted this long. Look at Unai Emery. Look at what happened to Unai Emery. Yeah, you think literally first European final, the players didn't turn up. 1 point off top 4, and towards the end of his reign at Arsenal, yeah, the stadium booing, the players down in tools. So I think if the same had been Paul, I think he'd have been under immense pressure. Would have made a decision whether to part company. But I've got to say, I'm not Arteta out. I don't like to see managers getting sacked. Yeah, when we don't get the win, who gets it in the neck? It's the manager, not the players who don't turn up or don't perform. It's always the manager. But yeah, Ralph, did you want to say something quickly before I go into the chat?
Just 3 points. The first point, in regards to David Rocastle, is great that there's still some kind of like fan power to get that kind of movement still recognised, as it were. Terry's idea about it would have been a great idea, in fact, to get the normal fans to give a special mention to those players, to show them how much Rocky meant to us, and also to try and G up the team. If that team came out of that tunnel not feeling inspired by fans, given a positive motivational kind of speech based on the way that we felt about Rocky, then that alone says what kind of team that we've got and what kind of players that we have. The second point I want to quickly make, again, based on what Terry was mentioning, about a Super League. The Super, to me, there was a mention, I think Arsene Wenger was asked this question as well, and he said how it's not going to happen. But the way that sport seems to evolve, if you look at, for example, cricket under Kerry Packer brought in this kind of like mini series, and all of a sudden you had India, you had Pakistan, you had England, you had Australia as well as West Indies compete, and then that seemed to have evolved into the IPL. Now cricket has gotten a bit commercialized, I would say, through that, and I think whenever there's a buck to be made, that tends to follow suit. If you've got players on super wages, as it were, and you've got teams in the same kind of leagues, then it would seem to be the natural kind of progression. As much as we want to not be part of it, the natural progression could be the fact that there may be a few teams that will join in and say, look, let's have a breakaway kind of league, and it's funded. There'll always be money for that kind of idea. And if it's successful, the fans will join in. Because if you can imagine that instead of playing against your Fulhams or your Leeds or your Man City or Liverpool, you're playing against Bayern Munich, you're playing against Barcelona, you're playing against Real Madrid in the mini league, that alone was very attractive. But it depends on the sustainability, and it depends on again, who's the governing body to make sure that the rules and regulations are followed properly. So I think there's always going to be some kind of like emergence or a new kind of idea, the way that this game can be formed. You look at the Six Nations for rugby, Six Nations, you've got England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, France, and Italy. At this moment in time, Italy seems to be the team that everyone beats, but there's a team that Uruguay could pop in. Again, you've got every rugby team's got this kind of Premier League status as well. So those kind of ideas can work if the basis and the need is available, but we have to be very careful, because when it goes into that kind of like sphere, that kind of arena, to the lower leagues, and I don't want to say the lower leagues, but that's what they are at this moment in time. If you exclude them, then with no financial power, with no financial backup, because the new shiny thing seems to be more attractive, that's where your grassroots tends to die off. So those kind of ideas, I think that there's always scope, but we have to be very careful the way that we're directing it.
Okay, let me go into the live chat for the first time this evening. I've got SJ Chan who says, true, we need money and good management and a board to get us back where we should be. If not, Kroenke is going to look bad, and if he's not going to back Arteta, everyone knows Kroenke is a crook anyway. I think I kind of understood that. Yeah, he's a crook. Okay. the assemble says, greetings, gents. So formal. The assembled. Greetings to you as well. A draw would have been an improvement. Any other result was a disappointment. I guess what was so glaring for me was the performance. If you're going to lose, go down fighting. But there was just nothing at all. They was just like strolling around and not like, you know, sweating. There was nothing. There wasn't anything there.
The only man of the match I would have said would have been I think they came on the pitch with Rocky Rocastle on their backs. That was the only kind of, like, you know, man of the match for me. It's the fact that Rocky Rocastle, if he was standing on the pitch there, we know he would given everything. And you know what he would have done? He would dug out players as well. He would point to them and say, well, what the hell are you doing? Why are you over there? What are you doing? That's the kind of person that he was. And that's not in them at the moment in time.
Tel, you know, we spoke about the disconnect between the club and the players and the fans. But do you think it's a generational thing? Because it's 20 years since Rocky Rocastle he's passed away, and more than almost 30 odd years since he played for Arsenal. So it's like is it not like a generational thing? The fan base never saw Rocastle play. And they haven't passed on the baton, the tradition of Arsenal. The baton hasn't been passed on. Someone's got the baton.
You know, when the Arsenal Museum was open, they had videos in there of the great Arsenal teams of the past, and they would have had videos of Rocky Rocastle already done, already sorted. They could have showed those to the players. I mean, the few times I've been in club level, some of the players who aren't playing do walk through. But you know, quite often, you know, they don't really they're not interested in talking to people. They're just passing through. They're up in club level, of course. But yeah, I mean, my son worked with a guy who was best mates with Danny Welbeck, and Danny was great. You know, he owned a box, and my son Michael got into the box and saw a match there and met Danny's parents and that. So there is some connection there, but I don't think there is enough connection, and I don't think these players feel what the average fan feels. I think that's the problem. They are cosseted because they are so unbelievably rich. Now, if they were further down the leagues, they would know the feel, what it is to struggle to keep your job, and in difficult times, and you're going out with a rain dripping down the back of your neck. And some of the players in the sort of lower leagues know that. But we've got to the stage where these guys are incredibly rich. And you know, I kept thinking when I watched Arteta being quite upset, you know, it's a pity that they don't have a system. It's probably illegal, but it'd be nice to have a system where if you lose, no pay. End of. So you soon see a completely different set of players going out there. If you went a goal down, you'd be saying, lads, we won't be able to fill Ober's car up with the old. But you know, but so.
Tel, just very quickly, you know the documentary 1989?
Yeah.
Well, of course, you see the history. There was one part when Lee Dixon was talking about when they were getting ready to go out and run against and play against Tottenham. And he says, like, he's doing up his boots, and he noticed, like, certain players are looking at him and thinking, what's going on? Have I got bogies on my nose? What is it? And before he knows it, like, there's players got him up against the wall and said, look, listen, you're a Northerner. You don't understand what the North London derby means. And that is the problem. We don't have players of that ilk to remind the squad what it means. North London derby, Rocky Rocastle, there's no players passing on the baton. Tel. We're going to be very quickly a club just renowned for the history. If the club lasts any longer than that. But there's no one passing on the tradition. There's no one passing the baton. Someone's dropped the baton.
Yeah, no, true enough. I mean, it's. I did read the autobiography of Theo Foley, who was George Graham's right-hand man, and they would grab players, you know, up against the wall and demand things, you know. But unfortunately, we namby-pamby them, you know, and if they lose, you know, oh, well, don't worry, you know, we'll always come back next week. Well, I'm sorry, if you're a fan, there is no next week. It's that day, that night, you know, and you're going to go into, when we were kids, you'd have to go into school the following Saturday if Arsenal had lost. And I remember thinking, why don't these players, when they're injured, put on a disguise and come and stand in the North Bank and feel the passion of the players? Just feel what it of the fans. Feel the passion beating in our hearts. When Arsenal are coming on. I don't think people like Xhaka always strikes me as somebody who just lives in a completely different world. He doesn't understand it. He's not interested. And of course, once you have that with a guy that used to be our captain, and then he threw the captain's armband away, we've all heard that before. But that's at the heart of this. These guys are little rich kids. They're taking their money. They know that once they get to 30, they get their final contract, and they will never be looking for money again because they are so rich. So that's at the heart of the game. And sometimes when I watch Liverpool, the difference, and Man City, is that their managers manage to fire the players up. I mean, Liverpool have had a dodgy season, and it's not really their own fault. They've had all kinds of injuries that have decimated their back line. And both Klopp and Guardiola demand an enormous amount of high pressing, but they both managed to get their teams to do it.
Listen. I understand what you're saying there. But if I'm needing my manager to fire me up, I shouldn't be playing football. I should come with that motivation regardless of who the manager is. If you're needing someone to motivate you, you shouldn't be playing for Arsenal. You don't find another club to play for. I'm sorry. Let's go back into the live chat. Donkey goes to say, Alba had a great previous season, strange loss of form. James, do you think he'll be chosen to play on Thursday?
Probably. Probably, because I think obviously there's no consequences at the club. Are there? If we had a more experienced manager who didn't feel the need to micromanage and had learned his trade before reaching the top, you might see a different perspective. You might see a different perspective. And, you look at the teams that are really in form. You look at the teams in the Premier League this season that are really proud of their club. Leeds United and the Bielsa and those players. Leicester, FA Cup semi-finalists, they're proud of their players. Why? Because they're giving everything they've got for that shirt. And people say, they're all millionaires. But not every footballer is rich. Not every footballer is rich. I've spoken to players in the past where a transfer has made their career and broken their career. And you can't plan a career. You can have ambitions, you can have dreams, but you could suffer a terrible injury and your career could be over. A new manager could come in. You could be marginalised. I spoke to a player today who used to be a striker, and he dropped into midfield. He dropped into midfield because the team he was playing for had suspensions, and he was kept in that position because he was doing a really, really good job. And he went on to make a professional career of that. So sometimes, when you're changing the teams, but Aubameyang's not a captain. For me, I've known about him since his days at AC Milan. So I've never been one of these sign the thing, my man, my G. Because if you've been sent away by AC Milan because of disciplinary reasons, that is your starter for 10. If when you sign for the club, the first official communication you give to the fans is great to be your final signing, boss. That's all you need to know, isn't it? He's not there for the club. He's not there for the badge. He's there for himself. He had disciplinary reasons at Dortmund and St. Etienne. Arsenal appear to ride the red carpet for the wrong kind of characters. Leicester, on the other hand, they roll out their blue carpet for the right kind of characters. And if we want to learn, we've got to follow their blueprint, I believe.
Ola Donkey goes on to say, Nelson's quality needs a good major coach to give him confidence. I'm actually not too upset about the Liverpool match. All clubs get overrun sometimes. It's the regrouping, understanding the defeat, and solving the issue. The problem is we've lost how many games this season? 12 games. 12 games we've lost this season. So we're going to get one sometime. But 12 games this season. It's like I give the analogy about Arteta trying to make a cake with the same ingredients. The first cake, people saying, "Oh, Arteta, this cake is disgusting." He goes away, makes another cake with the same ingredients, hoping for a different taste. You've got to change the ingredients. Got to change the ingredients. My goodness. Anyway, Photography 82 says there is too many other team rejected players on our team. Like James just said, they come with I mean, all players come with baggage, but you need to do your homework. Is this player a troublemaker? Does this player have a history of injury? If they are that ilk, we don't need them at Arsenal. We don't need them. That has won loads, and so don't feel they need to prove anything anymore. That's our problem, and we are holding players too long.
Can I just say something, lad? Arteta said I didn't see that coming up defeat. Well, I have to say I did see it coming, and when people were putting up on the sort of WhatsApp thing, scoreline, I didn't put anything down because I couldn't see anything other than a defeat. And I'm really surprised. I think he must have been talking tongue in cheek, or he's got the wrong glasses on or something. But I could see that coming. I knew they were going to press. They are one of the best pressing teams in the league. And they've worked out what we did towards the end of last season, which was to allow pressing teams onto us and play the long ball over the top onto Aubameyang. That's been sorted out. The world knows how we play, so he had to find another way of releasing Aubameyang. They tried to get it through the middle to Ødegaard, and that failed. And then in the end, somebody with a bit of football intelligence should have said, there's going to come a time when we can do a couple of 1-2 passes and lob it hard for Aubameyang to run into, because that was the only way we were going to score. And I was really surprised when Arteta said, I didn't see that coming, because I saw it coming. We have our midfield has no runners in it, and I'm including our new guy Partey in this. He's sluggish. He's a big guy. He doesn't shift. He's a lovely player, but he needs at least one of these Leicester type runners alongside him, a Harvey Barnes or somebody that can cover the ground, carry the ball. Now, what Partey does is he makes the ball do the work, which is great, and he does these 20-yard, 15, 20, 25-yard passes. Wonderful. But we need another guy in there who can do the running and close the opposition down. And we haven't got runners. It's been obvious for two or three seasons, but maybe there aren't the sort of those players around. But we aren't producing people who can run with the ball and do these little triangles of passing through that middle third.
Okay. December goes on to say, in my opinion, if you continue to keep invested in the same type of players, i.e. attitude, mentality, how is anything going to change? Everyone is too comfortable. Arsenal needs a proper shake-up. A serious change in culture. And so on those lines, James, I agree with you that we need a new owner. We need a new owner who cares, is going to be
Starts
there.
at the top.
Maybe 6. Yeah.
Starts at the top. It starts at the top. I mean, we moved from Highbury to the Emirates, and all of us now pine for Highbury because it was so special. If you'd have said upon moving to the Emirates, this is the situation Arsenal are going to find themselves in, nobody would have believed you. Nobody would have believed you. I know football moves on, and it moves on at a massive pace, but we are a club that is well and truly going through the motions. I see it with the fan base on Twitter. Ødegaard has one amazing game. Oh, we've got to sign Ødegaard at any cost. One amazing game. But they'll come out with that. Ødegaard was playing here in the Netherlands for Vitesse and Heerenveen. And he's signed an 8-year contract with Real Madrid. Real Madrid do not need to sell. Real Madrid may not want to sell, and when you are in service of the biggest football club in the world, nobody wants to leave. And with the greatest respect, the only player who's left Real Madrid and become a success in recent years was Arjen Robben. It's the only one I can think of, and that was 14 years ago. And Arsenal fans, they latch on to that one player. For example, they've said there was a great point from Danny Blind, who was capped by the Netherlands, played for Ajax and Sparta. He was doing the analysis here in the Netherlands at half time. And what he said translated into this: Arsenal have too many players that are all the same, too many of the same similar characteristics. He said, take their midfield, for example. Ceballos and Odegaard love the ball. They both love the ball. They're ball happy. But none of those players are willing to do the work to put another player in a good light, to help another player. They're not willing to do it. And I'm not on for the coach here, but his lack of experience and fine-tuning. Why do you think Chris Wilder did so well with Sheffield United in the Premier League? What, was it a coincidence? No. It's because Chris Wilder, when he was at Oxford and when he was managing players at Northampton, you're managing footballers at the bottom level. So when he gets to the top level, it's easy because he's dealt with them. And Chris Wilder would have told Aubameyang where to go. He would have told Lacazette where to go. He would have told Ozil where to go. And okay, he doesn't have a job now, but I was castrated when I said I wanted Chris Wilder as Arsenal manager. I gave facts as to why I wanted him. The football knowledge of Arsenal fans and football fans that understood what I wanted to say thought it was a great choice. The others that are judge players on YouTube, FIFA, and YouTube influencers thought I was an idiot. But we are, as a club, we are really going through the motions. And I wonder when we are going to come out the other side.
Sanyeri got Pepe? We won't get into that. We won't get into that. There was some like brown paper bags being passed around, but we won't get into that. Ian Barron says, "Rest in peace, Claude, heartbroken." Yes, we did. Our condolences to his family. Pepe had one good year at Lyon and mostly penalties. Arteta started our strongest attack without Saka versus Liverpool, but still played negative tactics. We hadn't even one shot in the first half, Ralph. Not one shot in the first half. But you didn't see the first half, did you, Ralph?
I didn't see the first half, but I had the statistics up on my phone. So it kind of, it's no surprise. And like I said before, at the start of the second half, the team look. Well, it's even an insult to call them a team because they weren't a team. I don't know who it was that turned up on the pitch wearing that kit. The first goal, you had two defenders, Chambers and Holding, both about 6 foot, 6 foot 6'1", and you had Jota, who's about 5'8", 5'9", out jumping two central defenders. Central defenders, that is your bread and butter, a ball in the air. I understand about the way that we're talking about concussion these days because of injuries to the head and everything, but that's with a really heavy force, unlike in rugby. This is football. The ball's in the air. Your job as a defender is to get rid of any threat, whether it's on the ground, whether it's in the air, and to be outjumped by somebody smaller than you. That's farcical. That's a crime, really. That should be a fine. When you go down the tunnels, your manager should be in your ear saying, hang on a minute now, Jota is what you just seen him. He's walked past you and he's that height and you're taller than me and you let him out jump you. That's a fine. When it comes to the manager, I've been catching up. This is a bit of trademark. I've been watching Star Trek: The Next Generation. And the thing that I like about it is the fact that you've got the captain and you've got a number two. And the number two always questions the captain, always questions his decisions. And that is what a manager needs. A manager needs a good number two. Cloughy had it. Ferguson had it. For some intents and purposes, Wenger had it. You got to have a number two because as great as your vision is and what you want to be held accountable. You want your decisions to be questioned. And if it's questioned and it comes off, brilliant. If it gets questioned and it doesn't come off, accountability. Arteta does not have. I was watching him on the sidelines. There was somebody talking to him, but I wouldn't regard him as a number two. Because what happened on Saturday? What's happened increasingly for the last 12 matches?
But
Why have
Ralph, Arteta to me doesn't seem like the kind of person who is like willing to listen to anybody else. To me, he's very much in the mode of Arsene Wenger. It's either my way or the highway. I don't think he's the kind of person who's willing to listen to somebody else who will challenge his decision there. And that's a problem, isn't it? It's a problem.
That's the problem. The fact is, you haven't won anything. You're unproven. You're a manager in the making, and you're managing one of the biggest teams in Europe. So the board has to take the fall for that. But at the end of the day, you're a manager. You sit down, you watch tapes, you watch the players. I had some crappy video coming on my feed showing the team playing. I'm trying to get rid of it because what they did on the pitch compared to what they did on Saturday, it's like that. It doesn't equate. It doesn't equate. So if you're a manager and you're seeing that, and you must have a time where you sit down, where you're in the changing room with these players, and you must let your, the typical hairdryer response. You got to dig players out. You got to, because if you don't do that, you're back in the role of Arsene Wenger. Maybe he's using Arsene Wenger's tactic about how to get around players. It's not working. It simply is not working. And if you think it's working and you're quite happy to take the press saying it's my fault, dude, you're going down the wrong street. You have to be, if Terry's observations is correct about how he's trying to hold back tears, look at us as Arsenal fans. We were holding back tears. 12 games gone in loss. Now it's come to anger, and it's come to what the hell are you doing when you turn up when you wear the kit? When you wear the kit, what are you doing? You trained all week and you pull that's all your effort. Not for me.
I think these players, many of whom are not going to be at Arsenal next season, I think into their agent, they know if they're going to get, a lot of them, not Laka, but a lot of them will know they aren't going to be at Arsenal in September. I think they actually know that. And that's the feeling I got when they walked on that pitch. There was some of them thinking, well, I'm just playing. And I'll pick up my wage packet, win, lose or draw. And they, in their heads, they're thinking, where am I going to be next August? What club am I going to be playing for? And that then shows us, because we see that mentality on the pitch, because they don't want to get injured, they don't want to go in. Some people said that some of the players started doing the cardinal sin of hiding. They weren't getting into passing lanes. Now, one of the things when I watched it from the Liverpool angle is their players in midfield are constantly running, and our guys were standing still. Now, if you've got the ball and you're an Arsenal player, you need players running off you, so you're passing into the space that they're going to be running into. Yeah, and I watched Liverpool do that because that's how you play the modern game. And I saw an awful lot of Arsenal players standing still.
Eltel, did you see also when it came to the throw, it's like Chambers was like looking to see who to throw to. Nobody was making space.
Yeah,
this is the kind of thing I remember when I was in school. When I was in school, this is how basic it was. I remember my mate Richard Brown. I never forget him. Wicked player. I was standing there thinking the ball's gonna come to me, and Richard said, "Ralph, what are you doing? Make space, make space." So I ran, and I went line. He said, "Ralph, go line." I was thinking, what do you mean, Ralph, parallel, go line? He was showing me. This was when I was in school, and yet on Saturday, I was looking. I was thinking, Chambers has got the ball, and he's looking, and nobody's moving. Nobody's moving for him. The obvious thing, you don't want to play at centre because Liverpool had all their players in our half. Put them lateral, on the defensive, and it was like he was waiting for someone to move, and no one was moving. I was thinking, you are having a laugh. You people, school, professional, and you as a professional doing that.
James, very quickly, James, do you think Arteta is at risk if he does drop Aubameyang for a series of games? Do you think he risks losing the players?
I think so. I think we've got cliques in the dressing room where it's all about them, innit? But he's got to do what's right for him. You know, he's still very much learning on his journey as a manager. He's got to do what's right for him, and he's got to do what's right for the club. This just goes to show, for the third biggest club in English football, to have a novice as a manager. We're not a pet project. We have been around since Dole Square 1886. We are not a pet project. We are not an experiment. But one of the facets which starts at the very top, if we had an owner that was proactive, that would say, well, hang on a minute, you're far too inexperienced to become manager of Arsenal. This is where it starts. But Kroenke signed off on that deal. Everything's all right because it won't touch his investment. So I think Arteta's got to do what's right for him. But I say what I said at the start of the season, which is we've just got to try to get through this season in one piece.
Gunnar Matters says, evening Gunners, to Raz's point, Gary Neville alluded to it. Me or them, meaning do I need to bring the young guns as Mikel Arteta? That is what we've been saying for the longest time. The pundits are even saying it. Play the youngsters. If the so-called experienced players are not responding, then bring in the youngsters. We're not going to make top four. We're not making top four. Danny Fiza says we saw the Arsenal Diet Club. We have Pepe. Auba is a shame at this time. Big expenses, zero contribution, and many others. Why is Mikel Arteta not seeing this? Being the tactician people say he is. Tell.
Well, I think that's why we saw the tears at the back of his eyes. He's seen it. Pepe, I'm afraid, has to go. He's been a really bad signing. You know, the man, as we call him, very bad signing. He has to go. And suddenly you've got Auba, who unfortunately, you see, Auba never stays in clubs very long, 3 or 4 years tops. So he wants to move on. And the more I think about this, you know, I was looking at all the teams that are above us in the table. Most of them have managers who've been around the game. You look at the Everton manager, Ancelotti. You look at West Ham have got a better midfield than us. Moyes. These guys have been around. They know the game inside out. And I would say, I know Arteta talks to Steve Round, is the guy who's always next to him. But Steve Round, when he says something, always looks to see what Arteta's expression is. Because he's like a little kid at school that's not really sure, but they say something to you and then they look you in the face. And I see Steve Round doing that. He's not the right guy. Sorry. Yeah. You need a guy who's been around, and he will say to Arteta, they'll talk about it, and Arteta will say, what should I do? And this guy will say, you're going to have to ball that guy out. You're going to have to take this guy aside separately, because if you ball him out in front of his mates, he's going to down tools. There are ways of dealing with people. And of course, Arteta, as far as these players are concerned, is still young. He's still a young guy. He's not that far removed from them in age. So things point to, I hope Arteta's there in a year's time. But if we're in the position we're in now, that is very, very doubtful. But I hope he's there. But I hope he revamps his backroom team. I hope we get somebody in. We never seem to get ex-players in, like we could have got Keown in. Keown, very good defender. He can organise the defence. Everything I've ever heard Keown say or Dixon say, top quality ideas. Get somebody in like Keown, who was a tough guy. Let him ball out a few players for you. I could front up Arteta if I had to, but I wouldn't be fronting up Keown. Forget that one.
Danny Feezer says Arteta is not the problem, James. The players have no passion to play. Most of them are sleepy players, Alex. Well, I know that. I know that. Telling me something I already know. Oops. He goes on to say Martinelli is our best, but why he didn't play? Don't know. Why is he not using Nelson? Can you imagine this group of players playing against the cream of Europe? We'll be slaughtered every week. Every single week. Yeah, lambs to the slaughter. The Super League sounds terrible. The Champions League is enough. Jose says, hello. I've got Russ Morgan who says, hello, chaps. Hope you're all well. Yes, we are. We're just kind of sounding off just a little bit. Who else do we have here? Got Santiago. It even says, in my honest opinion, Arteta is not on the field. It's the players. What can he do? James.
That's Arteta needs a captain. And at the moment, our captain is only a captain in name only. He's not a captain. We need a captain in the middle of the park somewhere who's fist pumping, who's talking, who's demanding the best. And at the moment, we've had captains that throw the armband away and give a rude sign to the fans. We've got Oba, who is never going to be a captain in a million years. Sort the captain out, because that's your manager on the field.
Yeah. Ross Morgan says, Holding can't out-jump Sterling either.
Can I just say that I was watching Holding, and as you say, he missed the ball. He didn't I don't think he realised that Jota was behind him. But Chambers, who's an experienced centre-back, he had it all in front of him. He could see where Holding was, and he could see where Jota was. Now, all he had to do was get his body between Jota and the ball. He had to launch himself. He's taller than Jota. He had the whole thing in front of him, and he didn't do it. And then our goalkeeper put up a weak arm. And as the moment that happened, it reminded me, Holding is not good enough for Arsenal. Chambers is not good enough for Arsenal. And dare I say it, we haven't got a top goalkeeper in Leno.
Oh, my goodness. Just a few more guys. We'll wrap up this one. Would the panel agree that all our eggs are in the Europa League, and it's pick up the pieces from here? Ralph? Oh, sorry, I've got your mute. What's happened? Yeah, can you hear me, Ralph?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Okay. So it's been Easter. We had the eggs. And as far as I'm concerned, I can't see how we're going to progress. I don't know, unless there's some kind of super effort from the team playing on Thursday, that they're going to leave what happened aside and start progressing. But as far as I'm concerned, I can't see it. I'm not negative. I'm not one of those dismissive fans, but you have to look at the evidence. None of the players that played on Saturday showed up. If I was an observer for another team and I looked at that Arsenal team, I would tell my manager or my owner, don't pick anyone from Arsenal, because look what they did on Saturday, and look where they are at this moment in time. Their players are not good enough. We go somewhere else. We go to Everton. We go to Chelsea. We go to anyone else, but not from this current crop. So that's where that is where we are. The pieces are pretty much like a jigsaw. Arteta's trying to sort it out. Good luck to him if he can do that. But we need to. I think we need to just literally just start fresh.
Yeah, we'll come to an end on this one, but I want to ask James a quick question about Mark Overmars. How likely or less likely is it that Mark Overmars will? I think I already know the answer. Tell us, James.
Unlikely. Unlikely. Yeah. A lot of people put 2 and 2 together and come up with 5. For someone who's watched him do the job that Arsenal would love him to do, you would have forgotten that he was a footballer. People talk about his great work at Ajax, but he did an even better job with Go Ahead Eagles, his local team he also played for and ended his career. He went in to do the job that he was doing as sporting director, and he enjoys the role. You know, he enjoys the contract negotiations, and he's very, very clear and concise. But we won't see him at Arsenal under this regime. Maybe if a new owner comes in, we might see him, but not under this one. Not under this one, I'm afraid. But I think to answer the last question as well, we've got so much experience in Europe. We've played in Europe for more than 20 years. We've been healthier during those 20 years than now. Why now? Why now with an owner that doesn't care, players that only play when they want to play, players that think about other things rather than the actual shirt and the history of the club? Why are they're not ingredients to win a European trophy? We haven't won a European trophy for 27 years. And the intensity of Slavia Prague, coupled with the dynamic that we are at home first and then away, I think we're coming to the end of our European adventure, in all honesty.
Yeah. Do you have any interviews you want to quickly talk us through that you've been doing, the release? And...
Yeah. Today I spoke to Paul Stewart, who scored in the FA Cup final in '91 and played for, among others, Tottenham and Liverpool. Upcoming interviews include Trevor Steven, who Marseille fans will know and went to 2 World Cups with England. Lots of surprises coming up as well. Really excited about what's coming up at all levels of world football, with stories from Sweden, the Netherlands, Portugal, France. So very, very excited at what's to come. Also speaking to the sporting director of Hertha Berlin, Arne Friedrich, who's capped over 80 times by Germany. So really looking forward to what's coming up and how it's received, and onwards and upwards.
I'll tell you what, I feel like I could go 3 more hours talking to you guys about Arsenal, but I can't do it. it's Easter Monday, so I think we'll cut it off here. 3 more hours? You think it's a marathon? Anyway, guys, thank you for joining me on this Monday after Monday night chats over here. The UK is just a few minutes before 7:15. Ralph, my brother, thanks for coming on again.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure being in the hot seat with Eltel and James and yourself. And I'm back to work, so I'll be hoping to catch up with you guys sometime in the future. Okay, cool.
And Eltel, where's your godfather? Thank you as well, coming on Cannon Fire TV, man.
I'd say to everybody listening that, the wonderful thing about football is you get these surprise results time to time. Brighton beating Man United yesterday. So on Thursday night, I will be looking for us to keep a clean sheet, maybe sneak a goal. And you never know. We've had some really bad luck this season, and it's about time our luck changed. So let's be positive and let's go into that match hopeful that the gods are smiling on us. And as long as we don't let in a goal, don't do anything stupid, try and score a goal, but definitely don't let in a goal, then it's all to play for in the second leg. And then if we do get through, it'll be Arsenal against Emery or Arteta against Emery. A wonderful semi-final to look forward to.
Brilliant. And that's, if we're kind of short on players who don't want to turn up, don't have the right mentality or the right attitude, I think Des McCall's come up with a wonderful idea. Hey guys, put Doris the tea lady on the bench. She will do a better job than these lot of players. Do we have a tea lady at Arsenal?
We might have done.
We used
I could find out, because I know a few people who've been working there for a long time, and I could say, who was the famous tea lady? I'll find out for you next time.
Nice one, nice. All right, guys. So we're done and dusted on this Easter Monday, Monday night chats. It's been wonderful to catch up with these guys. And I could have gone on for a lot longer, but I thought, let's cut a dash. For those of you who kind of tuned in for the first time, make sure you subscribe. Be part of the community. Like this podcast, like a wonderful community over here. And if by chance you've been wondering who or what you've been listening to, you've been listening to Cannon Fodder, of course, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world.